Greetings to you, dear TV friend, and welcome to Women's Voice on Divine Mercy Radio Television. Women's Voice is a program that comes up every Thursdays from 5 to 6 p.m. on DMRTV, where we discuss issues on gender-based violence. We raise awareness and also promote good practice as far as gender-based violence is concerned. I want to give solutions and proposals on how best to handle issues of GBV. It is a program where we discuss issues about women, but not just for women. Reasons why each time on set we try to get men involved or engaged in the fight against GBV. If we have to create a safe space or we have to create a gender-free society, each and everyone has to come on board. And our talking point for today, we're going to look at managing cases of GBV. How do we handle cases of GBV? This is a new year where everybody is taking on resolutions on, I'm going to do this, I'm going to improve on this or that. How many of us in our workspaces, in our offices, have we thought or planned how to have a gender-free or a gender-based violence-free office space or gender-based violence-free community? It is a food for thought which I'll be leaving with you. But on today's discussion of on today's edition of the program, we'll be discussing on how to manage cases of GBV. What are the core principles of GBV case management? And we'll also get to know the activities of Hope for a Better Tomorrow. It is an NGO which has been doing a lot. They'll be sharing with us some of the activities in the course of the program. To begin with, dear TV friend, I'm going to introduce you those will be joining us for a conversation on how to handle GBV cases, that's GBV case management, things to look out for. To my left, I'll begin introducing to you a very familiar face of the house. Otop Joseph is joining us today for our conversation. Greetings to you, Otop, and thanks for joining us.
Greetings to you, Joyce, and greetings to all the viewers of DMRTV. And of course, it's always a delight being on this program.
It's always a pleasure as well to have you on our program. And to my right, I'm going to welcome, or we're welcoming in a very special way and for the first time on Women's Voice, Tembeng Elian. She is the founder of Hope for a Better Tomorrow. Greetings to you and thanks for joining us on set.
Thank you very much, Joyce. Good evening and Happy New Year to every viewer of DMRTV.
Thank you very much. So, dear TV friend, these are the persons whom we'll be discussing, and you can join the conversation via SMS or WhatsApp on the numbers which you find on your screen. So today we're looking at GBV case management, things to look out for. So I'm just going to sometimes I feel like we do not really need to go back to defining these definitions of what GBV is, but because we might have people just joining us for the very first time and they may not have an insight of what GBV is, definitely I'll begin with you, Elian, to give us, I want it in the very simplest terms so that if it's a grandmother watching us from the far ends of Boya, she can understand what we mean by gender-based violence.
Okay, when we talk about gender-based violence, this is that form of violence that is being carried out or directed towards a person which at the end is resulting to either physical, sexual, or psychological harm. This can either be towards a man or a woman. So when we talk about gender-based violence, it's not only directed towards a particular gender, but everyone is it's at one point in time suffers from gender-based violence because there is power imbalance.
Okay, all right, thank you very much. Maybe we'll just go back to the practical manifestation, or what are some of the things we call or identify. Let us name them or actually identify them. What are the different forms of gender-based violence?
Okay, when we talk about gender-based violence, we have physical gender-based violence, or physical violence is the one which involves punching, kicking, boxing, and at the end of it, it inflicts pain on the body of the individual, physical pain. We talk about psychological violence. This is the one which the affects all the mind, most especially, and this involves insults, blackmails, and body shaming. Now, the most common one we have in our communities, or what people know about, is sexual gender-based violence. We have sexual harassment, we have rape, we have attempted rape. And when we talk about rape particularly, we have to understand that rape is not just a man forcing himself on a woman, but it's the act of having sexual intercourse with somebody without the person's consent. And when we talk about that, we should also note that somebody below 18 years, according to the Cameroon's law, is unable to give consent, be it a man or a woman. So if you're having sex with somebody without their consent or below the age of giving consent, that is being considered as rape. Also, we have what we call cultural violence. We're talking about cultural violence. We have widowhood rights that are still practiced in some communities. We have female circumcision, that's also called female genital mutilation. We have early and false marriages that happens in our communities. Those are all forms of gender-based violence. Pardon me.
Okay, all right, thank you very much. Without going back to some of these manifestations, today we are talking about GBV case management. On top, when we talk about case management, GBV case management, what are we referring to?
Thank you very much once more. When we talk about GBV case management, it's just a structured method which is put in place in order to provide all the tools or all the steps needed to help gender-based violence survivor from gender-based violence, and provide them with psychosocial support, psychological support, to see maybe the chances they have in order to survive, or in order to get away from that physical abuse, that sexual abuse, that psychological abuse. So when we talk about gender-based violence case management, is just about the methods that are put in place to help the survivor to know the chances he or she has, and providing all these amenities, all this psychological support, psychosocial support, in order to bring in of counselors, in order to help them, talk to them about what they went through and how they can overcome these challenges or the particular violence in which they went through in life.
Okay, thank you very much, Otop, for that explanation of structured measures on how to handle these cases. You want to add something, Eliane, to his definition?
He has just said everything, and as he earlier mentioned, it's structured something. When we talk about managing a case, especially when it comes with dealing with people that need psychosocial support, we need to know that there is a systematic order we need to go about these things, because I would take, for instance, if a case is being reported to us about somebody that has been raped, we cannot take the first person and go. We cannot take the person and go and start from, let's say, psychosocial support. There is an order we need to follow to make sure that this person gets the deserved treatment they have, and to get a better outcome that we want them to receive, which is good health, safety, and protection.
Okay, all right. Now, before we will go by case by case, I want us to be a bit generic before we go case by case. Now, we'll talk about a system put in place to handle these survivors. I prefer to call them survivors of different forms of GBV. It could be physical violence, it could be sexual violence, it could be some cultural deprivation, or some deprivation of access to information, resources, or unequal partition or appropriation of power, of opportunities to the person. Now, when we talk about this case management, what are the different principles of GBV case management? Either of you can begin.
Okay, the principles are surrounded by a phrase: survivor-centered. That means whatever decision or whatever thing you're doing to this survivor, the survivor should be the first thing that comes to your mind. You have to put in their safety, their protection, and confidentiality. Meaning whatever you're doing to them, we should do no harm. We should take into consideration their safety. We should know that there's supposed to be dignity of every woman and every child when we're talking about the principles of case management. And at the end of it all, we should note that whatever we are doing, there should be at the forefront. Their safety, their protection is what we want at the end.
Okay, the safety and protection of the survivor is at the forefront in terms of case management. So if you are handling a case of GBV, first thing, no matter the kind of case you're handling, the safety and security of the persons concerned need to be prioritized. Otto?
All right, to add to what she said, the principles of gender-based violence case management, I would say I can group it into psychosocial functionality skill and felt stigma skill. When handling a case of gender-based violence, like she said, you need to take into consideration the person's safety, the person's physical health, mental health. When we talk about psychosocial functionality skill, you need to talk with that person, see if that person's day-to-day activities is affected, maybe due to what he or she went in the hands maybe of his perpetrator, or the person who abused him or her. You need to talk to that person, see where he or she is going wrong as a person when it comes to the physical activities. Like maybe you are in work, you cannot concentrate because you are just being reminded of what you went through in the hands of your perpetrator. And of course, when we talk about felt stigma skill, you know, most especially when we talk about sexual gender-based violence, most people always feel this there's always a stigma there, that if you tell someone, oh, I've been sexually abused by this person and all of that, they always, the friends or the family you tell to, they always feel a type. Maybe they'll want to keep you aside. They don't want to associate with you, maybe because of the fact that if you get pregnant along the line, or if you have maybe an STI along the line and all of that, so they will want to keep you away. I would not want to associate with you and all of that. So there's always a stigma when it comes to gender-based violence, most especially sexual gender-based violence. And maybe counselors or people who are handling such cases need to take this into consideration, see the level of maybe stigma they have had throughout the year, see how, talk to them, give them remedies, give them various options in which they can have to overcome that stigma, and how to manage themselves in the society and the world at large.
Definitely, that is quite important when handling cases of survivors of GBV. Eliane, you want to add other steps, because I know there could be about 4 or 3 principles. It's okay. That's the main principle is about their security, checking their state of a trauma or stigma which they have gone through. What about introducing survivor tools to these survivors of GBV when managing their cases? Case management, yeah. Okay.
As we earlier said in the definition of, when we earlier talk about case management, we say it's a systematic order. Also, these tools that when you're working with survivors, it also has a way you have to follow them. And when we talk about those tools, we are talking about the consent service form. When you want to start working with survivors, you need to make them understand that this is what you want to do. Are they giving their consent? And it's always advisable you take written consent. Okay. Because if you take verbal consent, there are times they will go and come back and say no, or they have been threatened. You say, I'm not comfortable, I don't think I can talk any longer. So that's the first thing. It's always advisable to take their consent form. And we also talk about the action plan, make them understand that, okay, this is what you want to do. At the beginning of this, we have to meet this person, we have to meet this person. This is the procedure we have to follow. Thereafter, we're talking about follow-up, because when you have started the process, you make them understand that, okay, if you, at one point in time, if you're sending them for psychosocial support, you have to get back to these people that you have sent them through. How are they doing? Are they working well? Is everything going on well with them? Do you think this service that we are providing to them now is not helping? Should we change to something else? So that is another tool that you need to work with when you as a case manager. And also, the case should never last forever, or it can never last forever. So when you're working there, you need to know that you have to have a closure form. Okay. After you've gone all through the process, you help the survivor go all through it, you know that, okay, at the end of it, we have to close this case. And because you also have to keep archives for, in the sake that you have to do reference to that case or other cases, you know that, okay, you have to come back and check what happened to this person, how it happened. So that form needs to show that, okay, we've worked with this person, and at this point in time, they have achieved what you wanted, or they are more better than how they came to you. Also, we have to have feedback from them. Feedback is, though feedback is different from survey, but they are almost the same. So when you have worked with them, get to them back after a while. How are you faring? What's happening to you? Do you feel better? Or do you think we need to have another session, especially with the psychosocial support? Do you think we need to come back for another session? Do you think, like, getting to know what's happening with them and how they feel after this? At the end of it, you also check on them, make them to understand that, okay, as we're going through this process, you need to be safe. Needing to be safe means you don't have to try anyway, like you want to kill yourself. So there is also one form which is very technical, but safety form, it's also good for them to always get all these things available. You get these things available, it guides you all through the case management process, and it makes you to understand or to know that at this point in time you have to help this survivor this way, and going through this process eases them to helps communication with the survivors.
Okay, thank you very much. Guaranteeing their safety, accompanying them to see reasons as to why they have to stay safe. It is important when handling GBV cases. So you should introduce them to the is it a questionnaire tool or a written consent. It's important to always have their written consent and not verbal consent. And I think that this stems from experience which you've had, especially when you're handling cases of GBV in marital context. Yes. Sometimes when the lady reports the case, and then maybe GBV activists come and they want to pursue the case, the lady backs down, and if you do not have any written consent, she will definitely tell you that. Or the family members sometimes actually back up. So it is important when managing GBV cases, have a written consent, make the survivors understand what exactly the plan is, and also who you'll be meeting, how you're going to be dealing with the case, and then the case shouldn't really last forever. And then in addition, I'm just doing a recap so that we can quickly have a recap of what she said, and then also work on the safety of that person, or try to journey with the person in such a way that the person avoids suicidal thoughts, especially when the person is highly stigmatized. Now, I want us to look at something else, maybe case by case, if it's possible. Let me say, for example, that applies to all what you just said. It applies to all cases of GBV. So how do you proceed with cases where, for example, due to time, it might take time for you to get to explain to the survivor the steps you're going to take, and sometimes because of the urgency and the risk, you might just tell them verbally. What happens if someone at some point you're managing a case wants to give up?
You give them advice, but you can't force them. You give them the importance of what this case management will do to them, or what the process you're following up will do to them, but you can never force them, because at one point in time, if they tell you I don't want, you can't offer your service to someone who doesn't want those services. Okay. Yes. But there are cases where, when it comes to rape, domestic violence, most of the times it's being handled by the state. So when you've reported, the state takes over. Especially rape, the state takes over, and there's nothing else you can do when it's already in front of the law. They just have to watch it go.
Okay. So what happens to the other cases, like physical assault, which actually could be attempted murder in some cases?
You give them we have worked on cases, and after a while the person comes and tells you that, after I report them for you, so we go back and we had to sort our issues outside. You can't force them, because there are times you even invite them to come back and they'll tell you I don't want to come, or my family is on my neck that if I do this, especially when it comes to intimate partner violence or domestic violence, like if I come to you, they will tell me to pack and leave the house. If I leave the house, will you accommodate me? Those are questions they ask. And there is nothing you can do. In October, I worked on, November, I worked on one case of rape, and at the end of it, the mother told me that if you want to continue my child's case, I'll be packed out of my marital home. Will you be able to accommodate me? Because I don't want to continue the case any longer.
So definitely, don't you think that it is an avenue for GBV experts or those or the state as well to step up on some of this policy, because you're wanting to help but you might not have the resources to help that person up to what the person needs, because the rape it therefore means that the perpetrator of that case had gone scot-free, and is a potential threat to other people. So don't you think it is important for CSOs or the state to actually find solutions to such cases? Because if that lady had a safe space to go, she would continue with the case, and the person, the perpetrator, would have been called to book.
Some of them is not really an issue of a safe space, because we have safe spaces.
Okay.
Both the government, like the Ministry of Women's Empowerment and the Family, has a safe space in Limbe. Lugmev has a safe space, Richard has safe spaces. Their issue is not really the safe space. They are just looking for avenues for you to end the cases. But we don't want to. There are cases where we still continue with after that, and most of the time what we've discovered is some of these people now want to report these cases anonymous because they want the case to go on, but they don't want it to be tracked to them. So they'll prefer to come and tell you, okay, I want you to follow it, but I don't want it to be that it's coming from me. We have gone into communities that we have heard cases in communities, and because we cannot go outrightly and say this person is molesting this person or this person is raping this person, and no one wants to report, we go in with awareness raising and education. During that process now, we encourage people to talk. We share stories. I will start by, when I've done my awareness raising, I start by sharing my story. It pushes now other mothers or other children to come and talk to you that this is what happened, this is what happened. There we can get on from there. Yes, so most of the times when they want to come anonymous, okay, now we look for other avenues where we can reach out to these persons and also get the justice we want for these perpetrators.
All right, thank you very much for sharing that with us. In the meantime, before we get into something else, we've already highlighted some of the things which you need to look out for when managing cases of GBV. Otop Joseph, do you have any addition as far as handling cases of GBV is concerned?
Well, I think Eliana said it all. She's my boss when it comes to this, like she rightly said, and all what we have been saying here in the studio. When handling cases of gender-based violence, I think the most important thing is the safety of that person, keeping the person, the survivor, let me just say secret, keeping the person safe, because if you expose that person out there to the society that this person have come and reported this case, or the person don't report for the person saying, na me I rape you, or na me I do this for you, you are exposing that person to danger. And at the end of the day, the perpetrator might kill the survivor, and you, who the case was reported to, maybe you might be in trouble, maybe you might not be in trouble, but that conscience will be there. So it's very important for maybe institutions or the government or NGOs, when such cases is brought to you, the most important thing is keep the identity of the survivor anonymous. Do not reveal the identity of that person. And also, when handling such cases of gender-based violence, do not always give your opinion to the survivor. Your opinion is not needed. That's 100%. Your opinion is not needed when you are handling that case, or when you are in a one-on-one session with the survivor. Allow the person to speak. Don't say, I thought, don't ask the person any question. I thought this, I thought that, I thought this. At the end of the day, it does not make no sense, and you might be destroying that person's, or you might be increasing the mental health of that person. So when they bring such cases, keep your opinion to yourself and do not judge. Do not judge maybe the survivor or the perpetrator or the family who sidelined the survivor or whatsoever. At that point, do not judge. Like I said, just allow the survivor to speak, and you give the various options that survivor has in order to heal. Because healing is not something of a second or a minute or one day. It takes time. So you provide that tool to that survivor. Follow up the person, follow up that survivor, and most importantly, help that survivor to accomplish or to set out goals. Maybe if you're having a session for 1 month with that survivor, keep following up the person. Give the survivor assignments that we're coming for our next session. This is what you should do, this is what you should do, and this is what you should do. I think that's the last point when it comes under the tools of gender-based violence case management. So it's just about keeping the identity of the survivor secret or anonymous. Your opinion is not needed when a case is being presented to you, or when the survivor is explaining his or her case to you. Keep your opinion to yourself. Is not needed. Do not judge or do not point fingers at this person or at that person and all of that. Your job is just to help, provide the options that are needed for that survivor, and help the person. See how you can help he or she in order to get away or to heal, or to have a fast healing when it comes to the violence, whatever violence they have gone through.
Thank you very much, Otop. Keeping their safety is important. Concealing their identity is also very important. And one very important thing, keep your opinions and why not your emotions as well aside and handle the cases and follow due process, and also give time to the survivors to heal. It is quite important when handling case management. And one of the things which some GBV I don't know if I should call them expert, because an expert should know that he or she should keep her emotions aside. One of the things which I've observed in most cases, for example, when you hear a rape case or any GBV form, you have some persons who quite agitate about it. We're going to sue the man, we're going to do this. A lot of emotions are being put into it. What do you have to say as far as that is concerned?
Okay. We just need to know that there are times that those things are normal, because it's not like the person is doing it for their own sake, but they just feel mad about the situation at that time. And to some people, it brings them back bad memories which they don't want to remember. So that is why when they find any point where they have perpetrators, all they want is those perpetrators should go down for justice. It's not like it's for personal gains, quite all right, but it's just that they have some connections. Either they are affected or they are infected by it, and they don't want that thing to keep happening in their community. They want justice.
Okay, they want justice. All right, thank you very much, Joseph and Eliane, already for giving us already for close to 25 minutes or more. We've been talking about the different case management procedures and principles and things to look out for. Now, Eliane here is in the capacity of the founder of Hope for a Better Tomorrow. So just tell us, what is Hope for a Better Tomorrow all about, and what are the activities which they have been having?
Okay, Hope for a Better Tomorrow, that's HOBET. It was founded in 2018 by myself and some other community workers, and we came about because of the cases of sexual gender-based violence we found in our communities. We wanted to play our part in bringing that to an end. So we founded HOBET, and we started our activities in 2018 in Yaoundé by doing blood donations and carrying out community awareness raising. So our core activities, we work in promoting gender equality, we work around sexual and reproductive health and rights, we work in promoting peace and social cohesion, and also carrying out community service. Over the years, we have been able to work with survivors of sexual gender-based violence, or the entire community, where we go about educating them to understand what gender-based violence is all about, because I bet you a lot of people are going through gender-based violence, but they don't know that that is gender-based violence. By so doing, they keep enduring and enduring till they have to lose their lives, or they have to find themselves in critical condition before seeking help. So we are out in the communities to carry out continuous community raising awareness for people to understand that, hey, this thing that is happening like this is gender-based violence. And you don't just need to sit quiet about it, you need to talk about it, you need to report it. If you are a survivor, don't stay mute, don't stay quiet, report cases that are happening to you and your communities. If you are a community leader, don't stay mute when cases are being reported to you. Look for ways in seeking justice, in helping the survivor heal, in seeing into it that the perpetrators seek justice. And also, we also carry out activities around sexual and reproductive health and rights, where we carry out since 2020 in the heat of COVID. We have been carrying out menstrual hygiene activities, educating young girls on what menstrual hygiene is all about, doing the distribution of sanitary products from pads to pants to hand sanitizers, making sure that every girl out there in the communities we go to understand what menstrual hygiene is all about and take care of themselves. And currently we are also working on it. We are educating adolescents on understanding comprehensive sexuality education, and in the months ahead we shall be coming out with a comprehensive material that will help adolescents in communities understand what comprehensive sexuality education is. We are not only doing this in communities, we are also carrying out these things online. So we are doing online advocacy to help people who use the media understand that sexual and reproductive health issues are things that need to be discussed about. Sexual gender-based violence happens in our community. Also, we have online gender-based violence. So we have to be careful with all of this. And in the country we find ourselves right now, we see that we are going through the socio-political crisis. We have the watchword of preaching peace in communities. We have been preaching peace, and in 2019 we had a session where we had an online peace campaign, encouraging every woman out there to take part in the peace process, because from statistics, the women are suffering more in this crisis, are suffering more because their husbands are dying, their sons are being kidnapped, their daughters are being raped, the women are acting as undertakers. So we are playing our own part. We cannot say we are doing it all, and we are not saying we are doing something small, but as citizens of the country, we are playing our own part to see that every community is up to date with knowledge and skills on peace, on ending gender-based violence, and on taking care of their own health. Thank you.
Thank you very much. That's quite laudable for Hope for a Better Tomorrow, contributing your own to make actually tomorrow look better. And kudos to you and the entire team. And just to add, what inspired, what was that motivation? Huge activities, but what inspired, what was that push?
Okay, I started in 2018 because I am a survivor.
Okay.
Yes. And it's not just because of my story. I have stories of others around me, loved ones around me. Growing up, I witnessed a lot of domestic violence, and kind of it shaped my mindset about marriage and a lot of things to date. But my personal story and that of loved ones around me pushed me towards this, because this thing happened to me and it happened to those in my community, and people were not able to talk about it. I want to be that voice. I want to be that one to say, hey, this thing happened here, or this thing is happening to somebody and it needs to stop. We don't need to let it continue. That has been my push, that has been my drive. And my personal story, when I look at where I was, the pain I lived in, the regrets, the plans of revenge I had in me, and who I am today, I know a lot of other young girls or young boys out there are suffering from the same thing. And why should we stay quiet? Yes, we are survivors, but our life should not just end in the misery those people think they left us in. We have to wake up. We have to take our own destinies into our hands. And I'm happy for, I had a project I conceived about 3 years ago, where I planned to take survival of sexual gender-based violence for a self-care trip. And for 2022-2023, I've not really done it as a self-care trip, but we've brought them together, talk, share stories, laugh, cry, because we have cried a lot, cried together because the stories are very touching. And after our tears, we wipe our eyes, and from there we took steps forward to help ourselves.
All right, that's quite commendable. Now, I want to go back to your initial presentation. You said one of the things where you really engage so much into awareness raising, because some people are actually going through this gender-based violence without knowing what it is. Maybe let's go back there, and I'll begin with Otop. What are some of these things that go on in society which are actually the different forms of GBV, and people do not know or cannot identify that this is actually GBV?
I think one of the things that can be identified as gender-based violence, in which people don't know, is verbal violence. When someone abuses you, that's violence, and it might affect your physical being, it might affect you mentally. That's what people fail to understand. That's why it's very important to say to be mindful of what you spew out from your mouth, because it can be hurtful to that person. It can lead to depression. It can lead that person to depression. That's one of the things people don't know. It's violence in the community, verbal violence, what you say to people, how you abuse people, how you interact with people. Another thing too is culture. When we talk about culture, maybe you go to an institution and they say, I cannot employ you because you're a lady. I cannot employ you because you are a man, and all of that. That's gender-based violence. You don't want to employ this person because it's a female, or because this person is a man, or because this person is not from your tribe. Because you are not Bayangi, I will not employ you. Because you are not Basa, I will not employ you. Because you are not Bakure, I will not employ you. That's violence against that person, because that person is not from your culture, and you don't want to employ that person because your mind is set up that I just want this particular tribe. I just want my tribe to be working with me in this institution and all of that. I think it's verbal and cultural that people don't really think that it's gender-based violence, but it's part of gender-based violence. If there is, I cannot pinpoint others, but the two that just came to my mind, it's verbal violence and culture.
All right, Eliane wants to add some of them.
Yes, I want to add one, which is very common, especially with couples. There is something we call intimate partner violence. There is a saying with men that in pidgin, so I take my money, go marry a woman, and say me cannot do it to her one time. Yes, because a lot of men think when they have paid the bride price, anything they want from their wives, they just have to get. That's not how it's supposed to be. We talk about consent. It means you need to seek consent for everything, and especially sex. Rape is very common in marriages, but we tend to minimize it because we think that everybody that is married is supposed to have sex. And even if you have to have sex, anytime your husband turns and, madam, time don't reach, you need to give it. That's not it. You need to seek consent, and especially as identifying rape. Rape is any act of sex, either through the mouth, the vagina, or the anus, with penis, with the finger, or with any object, without consent. That means even if it's your wife or it's even your husband, if you want to have sex with that person that you are legally married, you need to still ask for their consent. This is very common in our communities, and you hear, as I earlier said, men, it's my wife or it's my husband, anything that happens is our home, it should end there. No. We have seen situations. The recent one happened in Douala about 2 months ago, where a man got his wife well beaten, and I think the woman died because of he did not get what he wanted. It was not actually sex though, but that was domestic violence because he did not get what he wanted from that woman at that time, and he said the woman neglected something he wanted. So those are things that happen in marriages, and we close our eyes to, or we give a deaf ear to, but that is gender-based violence, and we need to pay keen attention to that.
All right, Otop.
Another thing too is socioeconomic violence. When we talk about socioeconomic violence, for example, maybe taking the earnings of your wife or your husband, not allowing your husband to work or your wife to work, not allowing your wife to do certain things, or not allowing your husband to do certain things, maybe at home or socializing with other friends in the community or in the economy. That's another point of gender-based violence. As a citizen, you have no right to tell someone to stop working, or you have no right to take the earnings of that person. That person worked for that money, and at the end of the day, he or she needs to get paid for what he did or she did. So socioeconomic gender-based violence is another part of violence in which people don't consider as gender-based violence. We as Africans, I'm sure that would take a long time for us to consider that as gender-based violence, because we have set up our mind in a particular way that if God does not come down, we will not change our minds. Now in our society, in our economy, and in our homes, it's very normal for a man to tell, most especially their wives, it's very normal for them to tell them, don't go to work.
Sit and take care of the children.
They give them that housewife title. Don't go to work. If most especially if the wife is earning more than the husband,
there's really a trade.
Yes, there's a trade. That's another big problem in the house when it comes to us Africans, rather. That's another big problem. And like I said, as a citizen or as an individual, you have no right to tell someone to maybe to stop working, or maybe the person is because your wife is earning more than you, or because your husband is earning more than you. You will say, give me your salary, or give me half of your salary, and all of that. So socioeconomic too involves, as well as verbal, culture, and what Eliane talked about.
All right, just to add that one of the commonest form of violence, which is also child exploitation, in our homes, we leave the towns and go to our villages and get a child to come and assist us take care of our own children. There we don't give the child the proper needs. We promise to send the child to school or to learn the trade, and at the end of the day it is not done. Or maybe as a parent, there is this male preference. You prefer your boy child or this child to that child. Or sometimes you say you there's some words, there's some couples which I've witnessed, which is quite unfortunate, where we have some people say balok come from your mommy's side or your papa's side. Or those are things which are actually abusing the child, traumatizing the child. These are things that we do every day and we don't know that it is violence. Or saying that go for day you fever you just go for day we are head there papa own or your head those are you actually that's violence. You're abusing the child, and that is actually going to cause physically and it's going to affect the child mentally. But one of the most common which we decry, if you take a child and you have a commitment with that child, make sure you respect that commitment. Now let us go back to management of
There's something I wanted to add. Okay.
All right.
There is something that is becoming prevalent in our communities: online gender-based violence.
Okay.
Yes, this one we are not only using the social media space for entertainment anymore, but we use it now to bully people. Not only bullying with insults, or there are young, let me say, people in our community. We don't advise for you to share naked or semi-naked pictures with your loved ones. That is not advised. But if you find yourself in a position of sharing or of having a picture like that, there is no reason for you to share that with another person or to post it online. According to the Cameroon law, that is punishable. That is one thing most of us we are not aware of. We keep doing it every day, but it's punishable by the law. And these cases are happening like that. When online gender-based violence happens, we come to understand that the effects doesn't just end online. It brings it down to the real life, to offline. Yes, we have depression, we have all other forms. Suicides now turn in, and we are advising young girls out there, or everyone out there, don't share your naked or semi-naked pictures outside.
Don't even take them.
Don't even your phone should not even take them. You get, if there are couples that want to do something, do what you're doing and anywhere you're doing it. Your phone should not even be allowed in that environment. But in cases where we find those pictures or videos in our phones, delete.
Okay. All right.
Delete.
All right. Thank you very much. Now let us go back to management of cases. At some point you mentioned that one of the issues is that people do not even speak out. What are some of the reasons you think that causes people not to speak out, and how can people outgrow? Because the challenge, which according to statistics, that we're not able to achieve a zero GBV societies because people do not speak out. And for you to be able to manage a case, someone must officially speak out. So how do you talk out? I don't know what are some of the barriers first? Let's identify the problem first before we give solutions to.
Okay, I want to take a different angle first before getting to the regular.
Okay.
We are in a patriarchy society.
Okay.
Men don't talk. Men don't express their feeling. Whatever they are going through, they are a man, and it should end
that ego.
That ego.
They say big boys don't cry.
But I bet you a lot of guys, a lot of men, a lot of fathers out there have gone through gender-based violence than we think.
Okay.
Be it sexual gender-based violence, we have nannies or aunties that have molested or tried molesting men in communities. During our first session with survivors in 2022, we had a very big man, a father of about 4, and a reputable somebody talking to us how he was molested by a nanny. Until that day, he could not talk. He said the first time he talked about it, his colleagues were laughing at him. He said, I must leave that thing, you do the joke. But that was what he was going through.
And it's quite a traumatic experience.
Yeah, because they have no one to talk to. And also, men go through a lot of psychological violence. I won't lie. There are times when I talk and they will tell me I'm a women activist and I talk in favor of men. There are some women that the way they talk to their husbands, it causes emotional violence. And the best way that man knows how to send out his emotional violence is physical violence. He tends now to start beating the wife. But it's because he has accumulated a lot up there and he can't take it any longer. So apart from the patriarchy society we have, there is the issue of stigmatization. Of so the person that we don't rape her. So it be on there, it be be clean any longer. Yes. So this person for your house, you must have the beat. Then when you come outside, that stigma is there.
Yeah.
Even I myself, I have gone through that. I had an issue with somebody, and the person went around sending messages that I'm just pretending that I was raped because it was something I actually liked.
Unfortunately.
Yeah. So this stigma we have around us, and also there is the threat of life. These things are happening in home, be it intimate partner violence or rape, but these people cannot talk because there are cases where I've seen that the person be telling me, say if I talk, it will beat me. Or if I had spoken about, especially with children, he threatened me that if I talk, he'll kill me, or he'll kill my mom, or he'll kill my dad. And they don't want that. Or if it's in a case where a family member is molesting or has raped a child, they will tell you that so you want to spoil this family, you want to give this family name out there. They are threatening you not to talk, because if you talk, it's either you lose the marriage or they'll disown you as a child. These are the things that are very practical in our communities. How do we get around this? I earlier mentioned that some of these cases can be reported anonymously. It can get from there. And also continuous awareness, because these things are happening. People think that when you threaten them, like I was threatened, but this is me talking today and the person cannot do me anything. You should not, those threats at those times, they last just for that moment, but as you're leaving that place where the person is threatening you, walk up to someone who you can talk to. And also there is one thing, it's not everyone you talk to. You might be talking to an ally of that person. Know who you talk to. If you report the case here and you see that you're not getting a solution, move to the next person. There are always, if we have children that are facing any form of sexual gender-based violence or any form of gender-based violence, and you think you cannot openly confide in your parents, they are community leaders, they are religious leaders. Talk to your church priest, talk to your pastor, talk to your imam. They will get you responses. But if you say you're talking to those people and you're not getting what you want, move to the next available person. There are CSO non-profits that are working in this in almost every community, or they have focal persons in those communities. Move to them, explain your situation to them. One person will be there to listen to your story and give you the help you want. But as we keep saying, and just like what we are doing here, this is awareness reason for people to know more about it. Let's continue. And we should not say we are hearing more cases today than before. It's because we are talking now. It's because we are working towards the results we want. That is why we keep hearing more cases coming up every day. Thank you very much.
All right, thank you very much, Ellie. And Otop Joseph, we've been talking about the TV friend, we've been talking about GBV case management, and we actually talked about the things to look out for. First of all, concealing or providing the safety of the survivor is primordial, and also accompanying them psychosocially, getting consent. Written consent of the survivor is important, and also drilling the survivor on the different steps you'll be taking, who you'll be meeting, is also very important. And why not following the appropriate steps, be it administrative or healthcare procedures, which you need to in case of the different forms of violence. And why not also have all of your all of your cases recorded, such that you can always make reference to, and you all get the appropriate persons, be it legal personnel, be it medical personnel, be it therapists, to accompany these different cases of GBV. Now, on top, Joseph, we are about drawing the curtains of today's edition of the program. With regards to our conversation, what key message do you have to our viewers?
Thank you very much for the opportunity once more. The key message I have for our viewers is learn to speak out. Do not sit quiet, because we all know what happened to Ekoeme. That's how people popularly know her. We all know what happened to her because she did not want to speak because of what people will say. I think that's
your life is worth more than what people will say.
I think that's another reason why people don't want to talk, because of what people will say. Maybe you are a CMA member or CWA member. If you report this case and all of that, people will say, why the woman go report the master, or why the man go report the woman, and all of that. So learn to speak up. If you lost your life on the line, the blame will be on you. You are the one to answer to God, not your husband to answer to God, or not your wife to answer to God. So people should learn to speak out, okay? Like Eliane said, if you move to maybe one organization or one place and you're not getting the answers you want, move to another person and speak to that person, and be rest assured that people are there to help you. There's always I don't know how they call it. There's always a Moses in. I've forgotten how to say that thing, but always learn how to speak out. Do not keep it to yourself. Meet someone, speak out. It's for your own good. It's for your own physical balance. It's for your own mental balance, and all of that. So always learn to speak out. If you are going through any form of violence, if your teacher is violating you in school, if your lecturer is violating you in school, if your parents are violating you in school, if anyone is violating you or inflicting any pain on you, feel free. It is your right as a human being and as a citizen of that country. So feel free to talk to someone. There are various organizations here in Cameroon, or there are various experts here in Cameroon in which you can meet, and you speak to them and explain your predicament to them, and be rest assured that your answers or your worries will be answered.
All right, thank you so much, Otop Joseph, emphasizing on the need and the importance of speaking out. And to you, Eliane, what message do you have to our viewers with regards to our discussion here today?
Okay, I have one message wherever I go to, and that message is the survivor's safety should always be your priority. That means you should listen to them whenever they say they want to tell you something. Not just listening because you want to listen. Attentive listening, because after listening, you have to believe their story. In believing their story, it will help you to be able to know how to support them. So when you have to listen, you have to believe, and you have to support survivors in every action they want to take. If they tell you, I want to report to the police, I want to follow it legally, support them in that action, because those actions will give them peace. And I will also say, when it comes to sexual gender-based violence, rape especially, it's not just a fight for us, the activists. It's not a fight for survivors, nor their family, nor for media houses. It's everybody's fight. So we say, rape my fight, a fight, so everybody get involved.
All right, thank you very much, dear TV friend. To you, Eliane and Joseph, we hope you did enjoy this program. If not, you take the rendezvous with us next Thursday for another edition of Women's Voice. But for me, I would just say it is important when handling cases of GBV, listen with your heart, which means that you're listening and you're connected with these persons. And also, one of the things is the security and safety of these persons is important. And to us, our brothers and sisters, or those who find themselves in community where there are survivors and perpetrators, do not stigmatize the perpetrators and do not be afraid about what people will say, because your life is worth much more than what people will say. So, dear TV friend, we're going to leave you in the company of more interesting programs coming up next on DMRTV. In the meantime, take on the rendezvous with us next Thursday for another edition of Women's Voice. Do stay tuned to DMRTV. Goodbye.